Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about something real, something raw, something that every woman, especially the nice ones, needs to hear. Stop being the nice woman. Stop being the one who always says yes when you mean no. Stop being the one who bites her tongue just to keep the peace. Stop being the one who lets her needs come last and then wonders why she feels exhausted, invisible, and resentful. Let's be honest. Being nice is killing your confidence. It's suffocating your boundaries. And worst of all, it's not earning you the respect you deserve. It's making you the easy target. You think that if you're nice enough, patient enough, understanding enough, eventually people will value you. But that's not how the world works. People don't respect you because you're nice. People respect you because you respect yourself. And here's the truth. You've trained the people around you. Yep. You've taught them what's okay and what's not. Every time you tolerated the late night texts, every time you agreed to the extra work with no credit, every time you kept quiet instead of speaking your truth, you taught them that your time, your energy, your voice was optional. I'm not saying stop being kind. Kindness is strength, compassion is power, but there is a massive difference between being kind and being a pushover. Being respected has nothing to do with being mean, cold, or bossy. It has everything to do with being clear. Clarity is power. No is a full sentence. I'm not available for that. That doesn't work for me. I deserve to be treated better than this. You don't need to justify or explain your boundaries to anyone. And if someone gets upset because you drew a line, that's not a sign you've done something wrong. That's a sign they were benefiting from your lack of boundaries. Let that sink in. You have every right to put yourself first, not because you're selfish, but because you're smart. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot lead, grow, or thrive if you're constantly putting yourself on the back burner in the name of being nice. Do you want to be liked, or do you want to be respected? Because being liked is temporary. It's a game of approval, and it changes with every mood and opinion around you. But being respected, that's rooted in who you are. That lasts. That's what builds real relationships, real opportunities, real confidence. And here's another truth bomb. The world needs less nice girls and more authentic women, women who speak up, women who walk away from what doesn't serve them, women who are clear about their values, their time, and their worth. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe anyone your energy. You don't owe anyone your yes just because they asked. You owe you the truth. You owe you the boundary. You owe you the respect you've been chasing from everyone else. So today, I want you to do one thing differently. Speak up, say no, ask for what you need, call out the thing you usually ignore, let people be uncomfortable if they need to be. That's not your burden. Your job is not to manage everyone else's feelings at the cost of your own. Let go of the fear that setting boundaries makes you difficult. It makes you clear. Let go of the guilt that prioritizing yourself means you're selfish. It means you're finally listening to yourself. Let go of the belief that nice equals worthy. You were born worthy. You don't have to earn that. Stop shrinking to fit into rooms you've outgrown. Stop softening your voice so someone else can feel big. Stop thinking that self-respect is a luxury. It's your baseline. The world will adjust to the woman who decides she's no longer available for being overlooked, underestimated, or walked all over. So stop being the nice woman. Start being the respected one. Because that woman, she doesn't wait to be chosen. She chooses herself. And from that place, anything is possible. When you constantly act nice at the expense of your own truth, you're not actually being nice. You're being dishonest with yourself and others. It's a hard truth to swallow, but being the nice woman often means prioritizing comfort over clarity, approval over authenticity. And let's not sugarcoat it. That pattern comes with a cost. It chips away at your confidence, your identity, and your ability to stand firm when it matters most. Every time you silence your voice to avoid conflict, you reinforce the belief that your needs don't matter. Every time you agree to something you don't want to do, just to keep the peace, you're creating a life that doesn't feel like your own. nice, in the way many women are taught to embody it, is about being liked. It's about being pleasing, palatable, and non-threatening. But the price you pay for constantly chasing likability is self-abandonment. And here's the real kicker. The more you shrink yourself to be accepted, the more people expect you to stay small. That's how cycles of disrespect are born, not in one dramatic moment, but in 1,000 quiet ones where you made yourself smaller, more agreeable, more invisible. Let's talk about where this starts. From the time we're little girls, many of us are taught to be accommodating, to be the helper, the one who smooths things over. And sure, there's value in being thoughtful, but not when it's weaponized against you, not when your entire identity gets wrapped up in being the one who never rocks the boat. Because at some point, that boat is headed toward a shore you don't even want to land on. And you'll wake up one day wondering how you got there, how you ended up in a job, a relationship, a life that doesn't light you up at all. So what's the way out? It starts with radical honesty with yourself first. You have to get brutally clear about what you want, what you need, and what you are no longer willing to tolerate. That clarity, it's uncomfortable at first because it goes against everything you've been trained to do. It might mean saying no when your instinct is to say yes. It might mean disappointing people who are used to you always being available, always agreeable, always saying, sure, no problem. And you know what? That's okay. Discomfort is part of growth. There's a huge myth that you either have to be kind or assertive, that you can't be both. That's complete garbage. The most powerful, grounded women I know are also deeply kind, but they're not pushovers. They don't sugarcoat. They don't apologize for taking up space. They know that kindness without boundaries is manipulation because it's often given with the hope of being liked, not from a place of authenticity. And listen, being respected doesn't mean being cold or distant or aggressive. It means being someone who honors their truth. Someone who doesn't over-explain or over-apologize for existing. Someone who can still be warm, but doesn't let warmth be a reason to ignore red flags or enable bad behavior. This isn't about swinging to the other extreme either. It's not about becoming harsh or combative. It's about integration, about understanding that you can lead with compassion and still have steel in your spine. That's what makes you magnetic. Not the watered-down version of you who's always smiling through discomfort, but the real you who is rooted clear and no longer afraid to say what needs to be said. Now, here's a truth most people won't tell you. The moment you stop performing niceness, you will lose some people. That's inevitable. The people who are only attached to the version of you that serve them, the convenient, compliant, always there version, they will fall away. Let them, because the ones who stay, the ones who show up after you've drawn the line, spoken your truth, and chosen yourself, those are your people. That's your real community. You don't build a life you love by being everyone's favorite. You build it by being true. So start paying attention to where you're overgiving, where you're over-accommodating, where you're muting your voice because you're afraid of what someone might think. These moments are your teachers. Every time you feel that inner twinge, that tightness in your chest when you want to say no but smile and nod instead, that's your signal. Don't ignore it. That's your integrity trying to get your attention. You don't have to blow up your life overnight, but you do have to start making micro decisions that align with your values, not with your fears. Say no when you mean it. Speak up even if your voice shakes. Choose discomfort over resentment. Bit by bit, that's how you reclaim your power. The goal is not to become unkind, it's to become unapologetic. The goal is not to harden, it's to become whole. You don't need to justify your boundaries. You don't need to make everyone happy. You just need to decide that you matter. And when you start showing up like you believe that, the world has no choice but to rise up and meet you there. When you walk through life trying to be liked by everyone, what you end up doing is erasing yourself bit by bit. You adapt, you mold. You shapeshift into who you think others want you to be. And in doing that, you forget who you are. You forget what you stand for. You forget what lights you up inside. Being nice becomes your shield, but it also becomes your prison. And the bars of that prison are built from fear, fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of being misunderstood. But here's the truth. You cannot be fully liked and fully yourself at the same time, not by everyone. That's the cost of authenticity. And it's a price worth paying. People treat you how you train them to treat you. That might sting to hear, but it's a reality you have to own if you want to create lasting change in your life. Every time you don't speak up, you're training them to believe your silence is agreement. Every time you accept behavior that crosses a line, you're training them to believe there is no line. And then when the resentment builds and you finally explode or retreat, they're confused. But they're not the problem, you are. Because you set the precedent. You taught them what you would tolerate. Now, I want to be clear, this doesn't make you weak or broken. It makes you human. We all want to belong. We all want to be accepted. But somewhere along the line, we confused acceptance with appeasement. We thought being liked was the same thing as being loved. And that's not true. Being liked is conditional. It's surface level. It changes with the weather. But being respected, that's deeper. That's about consistency. That's about boundaries. That's about knowing where you end and someone else begins. You have to stop outsourcing your self-worth to other people's opinions. You have to stop waiting for validation to feel valuable, because if your worth is based on being liked, then your life becomes a performance. And every performance has an audience and an expiration date. Eventually, you'll burn out. You'll wake up and not recognize the woman in the mirror. You'll feel used, depleted, and quietly angry. Not because the world is unfair, but because you never taught the world how to treat you with respect. Respect is not something you get from being agreeable. It's something you get from being aligned. From living in a way that says, I know who I am, and I'm no longer negotiating that. That alignment requires courage. It requires having difficult conversations. It requires saying no without guilt. And yes, it requires disappointing people. But here's the thing. Disappointment is not a moral failure. It's just a sign that you're choosing yourself over their expectations. And that is a win. Let me tell you something most people won't. Not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone gets a seat at your table just because they want one. You have to earn that kind of access, and so do they. Your energy is sacred. Your time is precious. Your peace is not negotiable. The people who truly respect you will honor your boundaries. They will not be confused by your clarity. They won't make you feel guilty for choosing yourself. And I want to address something especially important. People don't remember what you said or what you did as much as how you made them feel. If you're constantly playing the role of the fixer, the peacemaker, the yes woman, you're teaching people that you are a resource, not a person, that you're someone to rely on, but not someone to revere. That's why shifting your behavior matters, because you can be dependable without being depleted. You can be compassionate without being codependent. You can love people without losing yourself in the process. So how do you start shifting this? One boundary at a time, one truth at a time. One moment where you pause and ask yourself, what do I really want here? Instead of what will make them happy. That pause is where your power lives. That's the moment where you stop reacting and start responding from a place of self-respect. Look, you don't owe anyone constant access to your attention, your time, your energy. The people who demand that from you without giving anything back are not your people. The relationships that leave you drained are not sacred, they're habits. And habits can be broken. You have every right to recalibrate, to redefine, to reintroduce yourself as a woman who knows her worth and no longer feels the need to prove it through overgiving. Respect doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from being real. It comes from knowing what you stand for and not wavering when someone else doesn't like it. And if they don't, let them go. You're not here to be everyone's favorite. You're here to be free. So teach people how to treat you by treating yourself with the kind of love, respect, and clarity you've been waiting to receive from others. Be the standard. Be the example. Be the one who finally breaks the cycle. Because when you do, not only do you change your life, you give every woman around you permission to do the same. It's one thing to say you want respect. It's another to embody it before anyone else gives it to you. That's where most people miss the mark. They wait. They wait for someone to validate them, to acknowledge their worth, to finally treat them the way they want to be treated. But the truth is, you have to go first. You have to be the one who sets the tone, who draws the line, who decides what is and isn't acceptable. Because no one is going to hand you respect. You have to command it. And the way you do that starts from within. Start with how you talk to yourself. If your internal dialogue is full of judgment, criticism, and doubt, that sets the tone for how others will treat you. You can't expect the world to show you respect if you constantly disrespect yourself. That little voice in your head, respecting yourself means keeping promises to yourself. You said you'd go to the gym, You said you'd stop answering texts from that one person who always leaves you feeling like crap. Stop. You said you'd stop overcommitting and burning yourself out, start saying no. Every time you follow through on something you said you'd do, you build trust with yourself. That trust becomes confidence. That confidence becomes energy. And that energy becomes the foundation of your presence. People feel it when you respect yourself. It's in your posture, your tone, your boundaries. It's not about being loud. It's about being grounded. People often mistake confidence for arrogance. But confidence isn't about thinking you're better than everyone. It's about knowing that you're enough exactly as you are. That kind of inner certainty is magnetic. It draws the right people to you and repels the ones who want to manipulate, control, or dim your light. And when you start moving with that energy, everything shifts. You stop entertaining situations that don't serve you. You stop chasing people who don't value you. You stop tolerating what once felt normal because now you know better, and when you know better, you do better. Let's get practical for a minute. Start noticing where you self-abandon. Where do you make yourself small? Where do you laugh when something's not funny? Where do you say it's fine when it's absolutely not fine? These are the moments where you lose power. These are the places where you tell the world, I'm okay with this, even when you're not. The more you ignore that misalignment, the more disconnected you become, not just from others, but from yourself. Reclaiming that respect requires a willingness to be misunderstood. That's a hard pill to swallow, especially if you're a recovering people pleaser. But if you're not willing to be misunderstood, you will always be molding yourself to fit someone else's expectations. And guess what? Those expectations are usually moving targets. So you'll spend your whole life chasing approval from people who don't even know what they want from you. And in the process, you lose yourself. You have to decide that clarity is more important than comfort, that your peace is more important than their opinion, that your future is more important than their temporary praise. Because when you live like that, when you speak from a place of truth and act from a place of alignment, you'll shock people, not because you're being rude, but because you're no longer playing the game. And yes, some people will call you difficult. Let them. What they're really saying is, you're not as easy to manipulate anymore. Take that as a compliment. Difficult women are just women with standards, women with vision, women who won't bend for breadcrumbs. And if someone can't rise to meet that standard, they were never meant to sit at your table. Respecting yourself also means showing up consistently, not just when you feel motivated or when it's convenient. Discipline is an act of self-respect. It's how you prove to yourself that you're serious about your goals. It's how you build momentum. So if you want people to take you seriously, take yourself seriously first. Invest in yourself. Take care of your body. Protect your mental space. Be intentional about the energy you allow into your life. One of the most powerful things you can do is start acting like the person you want to become even before you feel ready. Because the truth is, you'll never fully feel ready. Growth happens in motion, not in waiting. So stop asking for permission. Stop explaining yourself. Stop apologizing for wanting more. Just start. Show up as her. Make decisions from her mindset. Speak from her strength. Walk like she walks. And over time, you'll realize you weren't becoming her. You were her all along. You just had to get out of your own way. When you show the world that you respect yourself, it recalibrates how everyone around you interacts with you. It might ruffle feathers. It might mean you outgrow people, environments, even parts of yourself. But that discomfort, it's growth. It's transformation. And on the other side of that transformation is freedom, the freedom to live on your terms, to love without fear, and to walk through life knowing that you're not just asking for respect. You are the embodiment of it. When you decide to stop living your life based on how other people might react, everything begins to shift. You no longer sit in silence, second-guessing every word, every move, every decision, because you're afraid someone might not like it. That mindset is a cage. And the worst part, you built it. Brick by brick, every time you chose their comfort over your truth, their approval over your alignment. But here's what they don't tell you. Most of the people you're worried about impressing or not upsetting, they're not even paying that much attention. They're too busy worrying about themselves. The fear of what others might think is one of the most powerful, invisible chains there is. It keeps you quiet when you want to speak. It keeps you still when you want to move. It keeps you stuck when you're meant to grow. And the longer you operate from that fear, the more disconnected you become, and not just from the people around you, but from your own identity. Because in trying to please everyone, you slowly lose yourself. You become this diluted version of who you are. Not because you're not strong, not because you're not capable, but because you've given your power away piece by piece, moment by moment. But let's flip that. Imagine waking up and deciding to live in alignment with what you value. Imagine not shrinking yourself because someone else might feel threatened by your light. Imagine saying what you need to say, doing what you need to do, without explaining, justifying, or apologizing for it. That's not being rude. That's being real. That's living in integrity with yourself. And integrity is where confidence lives. You don't get confidence from being liked. You get confidence from showing up consistently in your truth. You get it by honoring your gut instinct, even when it makes other people uncomfortable, especially when it makes them uncomfortable. Because the truth is, people who benefit from your silence are always going to be uncomfortable when you start speaking. Let them be. You're not responsible for managing their emotional reaction. You're responsible for your own life. The habit of worrying about what others will think is not something you're born with. It's something you were taught. Maybe you learned it in your family. Don't rock the boat. Maybe you learned it in school. Fit in. Don't stand out. Maybe you learned it through trauma play. Small to stay safe. But just because you learned it doesn't mean you have to keep living by it. You can unlearn it. You can rewrite the script. Start by noticing the moments when you hesitate. That pause before you post, before you speak, before you say no. Ask yourself, what am I afraid of? Rejection, judgment, being seen as too much, And then ask yourself this: what's the cost of staying silent, of shrinking, of hiding your truth to keep others comfortable? The truth is, the cost is your own joy, your peace, your potential. That's too high a price to pay for the temporary comfort of someone else. You weren't born to live life muted. You weren't born to be agreeable. You weren't born to walk on eggshells. You were born to be bold, to take up space, to lead with heart and courage. And yes, when you do that, some people will leave. That's okay. Let them. Because the people who truly belong in your life won't be threatened by your truth. They'll be inspired by it. You're not for everyone, and you're not supposed to be. When you accept that, when you really let that sink in, you free yourself. You stop editing who you are based on who's watching. You stop asking for permission to live fully. And instead, you start choosing yourself day after day, choice after choice. That's where the magic is. Now, here's the real kicker. When you stop worrying about what other people think and start standing in your truth, you don't just change your life, you give other people permission to change theirs. Your courage becomes contagious. Your authenticity gives others the green light to be authentic too. You lead by example, not by trying to be perfect, but by being unapologetically real. This isn't about being reckless or inconsiderate. It's about being grounded. It's about choosing what's true over what's popular. And that's not always easy. You will be tested. You will be misunderstood. You will be judged, but you will also be free. And that freedom, that's worth every moment of discomfort. So the next time you find yourself about to dim your light, about to bite your tongue, about to pretend just to make someone else feel better, pause, take a breath, and remind yourself your truth matters. Your voice matters. Your life is not a performance, it's a practice. A practice in showing up as the fullest version of yourself, even when it's hard, even when it's scary, even when no one claps. Because at the end of the day, you have to live with you, not them. And when your head hits the pillow at night, the peace that comes from living in alignment, that's better than applause. Every single time. You don't have to post every move you make. You don't have to explain every decision. You don't have to share your goals in real time to make them valid. In fact, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is work in silence. Build in the shadows. Hustle in the background while the world sleeps on you. Why? Because the pressure to perform publicly before you're ready can sabotage the very thing you're trying to build. Growth requires space, privacy, and peace, not constant validation or likes or comments. If you truly want to evolve, you need to protect your process like it's S